Okay. So, who are you?
I am Jared Nahulu. I am currently 25, and I heard that you have come to talk to me about parkour, one of the main things that I do.
And movement.
Yes, movement in general, yeah.
So what is parkour?
The most basic definition is just going from point A to point B as fast as possible, which has kind of been the thing since it started, but it's definitely broadened out into more creative things other than just going really fast. The broadest way I would describe it is just interacting with your environment in a creative way. Part of the creative aspect is you could say that you're going from point A to B to C to D to E in really creative or unique ways.
And how long have you been doing this?
A little over 10 years, almost 11 years now. Almost half my life, which is kind of crazy.
How did it start?
I was in middle school and I had a friend who I would spend a lot of time with, and he showed me a video that was called Front Flip Tutorial, and we watched it and then took the pillows off of his couch and then put them in his front yard. We had a little tiny hill, and we just tried to do front flips based off of the Front Flip Tutorial video, and it turned out probably not very great, but it was really fun. And then after that, that same friend showed me a gym called Apex Movement, and I did one open gym there, and then the rest is pretty much history. I started with that open gym, and then I think I did maybe one or two more sessions before my brother and sister got me classes, and then I started off in like level 1 and then level 2 and then level 3, and then somewhere in the first year or two I got a work trade job, so I wasn't getting paid, but I could go in and basically clean the gym, and then I could go in whenever I want for free. And I think I was still taking classes, but from that point on it was kind of just I went in whenever I wanted and trained for however long I wanted. And then that definitely gave me the opportunity to get really good and get really obsessed with being there and training parkour very often.
What kind of conditioning do you have to do?
I would say there's a bunch of different kinds of conditioning you can do. I honestly have only gotten in shape for parkour by just doing parkour. You can definitely like lift weights or go for runs or swimming, but I think a lot of people, including me, just do parkour, and that's kind of conditioning in itself.
I feel like I see a lot of flips, but then and you have more montages of you doing other things as well, like you're running on really narrow beams, and you're jumping in a really controlled way. So when you're practicing, how much time would you say is dedicated to like doing flips? And then how much time is dedicated to like jumping from one thing onto a really small thing? Like how much time are you spending doing these different skills?
That's a great question, but it's definitely a lot of different days and different weeks and different months and different years of just doing, for me at least, going back and forth between whatever is on my mind that day. When I started out, I originally actually didn't even really want to do flips. I was mainly inspired by somebody who is really good at jumping and landing on really tiny things and running on really tiny things. So that's where my training started. And after that, I definitely got more inspired by other people who were doing flips. But I feel like it definitely depends on my mood for the day. I wouldn't say that I go in and I work on one sole thing. Like I wouldn't say I go in and I'm preparing to just do flips that day, or I'm just preparing to jump or climb or whatever. It's kind of also dependent on who I'm with and the environment. There's some days I go in to the gym at least, and there'll be a very cool bar setup to swing on, and I might have gone in thinking about jumps I wanted to do, but as soon as I see that setup, I'm like, okay, I'm doing swings, and I go and do swings for a couple hours. And then also my favorite thing to do in parkour is definitely swing on bars. So It'll either be me seeing somebody doing a jump or doing something creative or doing a cool flip, but most of the time it's seeing somebody swing on a bar, and then I just get this hunger to swing on bars because it's really fun, and that's mainly my obsession. I also used to have a far different mindset when I trained, and it's definitely evolved over the past 11 years. But I would say in terms of jumping on things and landing on things and running on tiny, narrow things and doing flips, it's kind of just random. But as far as the way that my mindset has changed after I did get into flips and I got really good at doing flips, there was a pretty decent amount of time where it felt like I just wanted to get as good as possible so that my teenage angst would get validated and I'd feel like I was worth something because I was good at something. There were definitely times I wanted to do some really crazy bar trick and I would get on the bar and it just wouldn't be going well. And what I would have done from probably 16 to 18 is I would have stayed on that bar and tried that trick until I either got hurt because it wasn't working out or I got really angry at myself because it wasn't working out. So there was a point in time where I would go in and I would say, okay, I have to do the hardest trick that I can do today. And I would spend hours or days or weeks on that mindset. But eventually, as I grew up and I grew out of that mindset, my perspective on training definitely changed to understanding with and also going with the mindset that whatever I feel like doing is going to be what works out best. As I grew up, it was definitely, if something wasn't working out, even if I wanted to do that thing, I would just kind of feel what my body was telling me would work out best, or just what sounded the most appealing in terms of the way that my body wanted to move, and I would just do that. And then it turns out that that is where a lot of my progress came from, was just listening to my body and listening to my mind and how I wanted to move rather than trying to force it. So I would say, in a really roundabout way of answering your question, the first 5 years were spent a little more methodical, of going in and telling myself I'm going to do jumps today or I'm going to do flips today. And then the last kind of 5 years have been just listening to what I want to do and then just going with that. And luckily enough, as negative as that training may have been the first 5 years, because it was slightly unnatural and I was forcing myself in some ways, I did give myself a broad set of skills. Like I would consider myself a pretty well-rounded athlete.
My next question is, how are you able to find the courage and the trust in yourself to perform daring feats?
It's definitely also a very good question, and also very relevant. In my opinion, I think anybody who starts doing really any kind of action sport young just has an advantage of being young and being ignorant to injuries, probably, hopefully, and also you just recover quicker when you're younger. And that was certainly my case. When I started out, I think I was 13 or 14, and I did have a background in swimming, and that definitely helped a lot with the physical aspect. I had a lot of strength to do everything, but as far as the mental game, it was very much just, I don't know really what I'm doing, but I'm just going to try it. I was definitely still scared of things, but compared to the fear that I feel these days at 25, which is not old at all, but it definitely is far different than being 16. I've definitely faced a couple injuries now. I had one major injury in 2017 where I hurt my ankle. I think I had like a hairline fracture on my ankle that I got mid-competition. That was my first kind of major parkour related injury. And after that, my early teenage years of fearlessness definitely just vanished. And I was like, okay, well, this is real. This is serious. Like, I can actually really get hurt, apparently. And then after that, I had another random parkour. I guess I had two random parkour related injuries where I fell on my head in a really bad way and got knocked out and had a concussion. And then there was another trick I was doing where I was swinging off of my legs and trying to do a double backflip, and I got too close to the bar and I hit my head, but luckily I like barely skimmed my head on the bar, so when I hit it I just skimmed the top of my head and I bit down during the head contact and I knocked my two front teeth loose. That was also a prior injury, but it kind of just ruined the double root canal that I had in those two teeth, so they basically just came loose. Luckily they were already dead because they were root canaled, but I didn't feel anything, but they came loose, and then it led to me being toothless in my the top set of my teeth for 2.5 years. I just didn't have two front teeth, and that was interesting. But after that, the only other injury I had was I tore my MCL, and that was kind of a long process of I landed a jump wrong and compressed my knee weird, and it definitely probably sprained my MCL. And then I kind of just went back to training too soon, and then I did another thing where I compressed my knee weird the same way but just way harder, and then I definitely sprained it that time. And I was afraid that I tore it, but after like 5 days it felt normal again, and I didn't have the discipline to be patient with healing and recovery, so all it took was just literally pivoting on my left leg. I just turned the way that you would round a corner and it tore. And I tore my MCL, and then that was probably the last straw of like, okay, this is like really serious. Parkour is actually very dangerous and very scary now. And in recent years, aside from the injuries and the fear that comes from injuring myself again, there was a trick I was learning, and it's a standing backflip with 2 twists, and I never thought that I could do it. And then one night it just randomly happened, and I didn't even mean to do it. I was trying to do 1 twist, and then my body kind of just kept pulling, and I did 2, and I landed it. And I was blown away, and I was super excited, and it still is one of my favorite achievements. I lost the ability to do a standing full because I did standing dub full, and my brain just wouldn't take control of what my body was doing, and that was the most recent scary hiccup in my training when it comes to fear, because that feeling of telling myself that I'm going to do something and then my body does something different definitely put me in a terrified headspace, because I just applied that to anything I was doing. For example, like, what if I'm trying this really easy skill that I always do, that I've done probably 1,000,000 times, and then my body just decides that it's going to do double, and then I land on my neck. And so just the fear that I'm not in complete control of what my body does has been the most recent really giant obstacle that I've had to overcome. And I'm still, like, even as of today, I'm still trying to get over that block that developed with the standing double full that was 2 years ago now, I think, which is also crazy. But every day since then, it's been kind of a battle to regain the trust that I have in myself whenever I do something, because now, ever since then, there's a slight hesitation of, what if I'm not in control and my body takes over and does something I don't want it to do? So a lot of basic skills, even in terms of flips, I'm a little more scared of now than I definitely ever have been. But when it comes to the bigger or more focused goals that I have, it's definitely a huge hurdle that I have to overcome in order just to get myself to do it and not be terrified and not get in my own way. And I still want to do so many things, and I'm trying to maintain the belief that I can do the things that I set out to do and not just back down because I'm afraid something's going to go wrong, which is something I actually did today. I went to the gym today and I did a trick that I was very scared of, but is working towards a goal that I have. But it definitely took probably half an hour of just standing there and picturing myself doing the trick before I could actually do it, because I was so in my head that my body would do the thing it did 2 years ago, and it would do something I didn't want it to do, which did actually happen a couple times today. The first couple tries that I was trying to do this trick, I did the wrong trick because my body decided that I was going to do something else. So I spent a long time just thinking about it, but eventually I did do the trick that I wanted to do, and it took a lot of time just standing there, making the motion, closing my eyes and picturing it, and calming myself down and working up to it. But eventually I did gain the courage to trust that I would do the right thing. And then I did it like 7 times and it felt great. But it's definitely a difficult obstacle, similar to the obstacle that I have been facing for the last 2 years. Obviously, a lot of the difficulty and fear comes from like the physical aspect of jumping really far or landing on hard objects or flipping a lot. But I would also say, I would even say more than 50% of it is just mental. And if you work on something enough, you start to trust yourself more because you have familiarity with it. And I think the most progress comes from just overcoming the fear aspect of it, as well as obviously getting stronger and being able to physically do something.
Yeah. You have to, I mean, the whole thing is just being able to trust yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
What inspires you to do what you're doing?
I was inspired by a couple things in media, like I can't remember which James Bond film it was, but it was the one where there was a chase scene and they were climbing cranes and jumping off of cranes and through elevator shafts and a whole bunch of really crazy technical stuff. And now I actually know that the stunt double, who actually wasn't even a stunt double, it was just him acting as the actor, but the person who was in that scene is kind of seen as one of the founders of parkour. And in the early 2000s, he was one of the first people who started kind of the revolution of jumping off of things and climbing things and vaulting things and doing parkour. But him in that movie, watching that movie scene when I was probably 12 or 13, definitely inspired me to some extent. And other inspiration, honestly, other than other people, just comes from the imagination that I have. And I have many things that I consider to be possible that in the past 10 years I've visualized, and it's basically just a process of me seeing something in my mind and going, oh, that would be really cool. And then I go to the gym or I go outside and I pretty much just do whatever that vision was in my mind, which is also going back to earlier why I think that process works so well of listening to my body, because ultimately that's kind of just the route that training goes, is you'll see something and then you'll want to do it and then you do it. Parkour specifically, you kind of have to have an eye for it, because if you don't know anything about parkour, I feel like it's hard to visualize specific things. But in general, I feel like anybody could see a really interesting environment or really intriguing architecture and get the urge to just climb on it or jump around on it. I definitely feel like innately we want to interact with our environment in some kind of way. And in America, it's definitely different because of the architecture and also just the police. They just don't. Nobody likes you climbing on their walls in America, and it really, really sucks. But in other countries, there's definitely very fascinating and intriguing architecture, and I'm pretty sure that in a lot of places throughout Europe, the police are more laid back. So like you can actually just see a wall and jump on it or climb it. And ideally, if it's like a house or somebody's living space and you're jumping on their walls, they don't really love it, but you're probably not going to get the police called on you and get arrested or anything like that. But even in America and even in Denver, there's definitely there's enough architecture that's I would say inspiring enough, definitely to parkour people, but also I feel like, I would say the average person can probably see an interesting environment and go, well, that looks cool, and I don't really know why, but I think that's definitely something we all have an eye for. There's definitely many things, flipping related and not flipping related, that I see in my mind very clearly, very often, even throughout like high school. I would sit there, and was probably one of the reasons that I was struggling to pass my classes, was because I was definitely daydreaming. A lot of my inspiration has come from just seeing things that I want to do in my mind and wondering if it's possible, if I haven't seen it before, or thinking of people who have done it and wanting to do it because it looks cool, or it seems like it would feel really good or feel really fun, and is also part of just our inner child and comes from playing on playgrounds and climbing trees and such. And it's definitely good for the body, and it's definitely good for the soul. There's so many kinds of movement now that I feel it's so easy to be inspired. I feel like if people do parkour, they'll know what I'm saying. But if you see somebody do something, you're like, oh, I want to do that. And I feel like that's not something restricted to parkour. Like, I'm sure any sport, you want to just copy what you see because you're passionate about it. But if you're scrolling online or something like that, you'll see something and it's very inspiring. I feel like, at least for me, it's very easy to be inspired by what I see. So it'll be some kind of big jump. It'll be somebody doing something really creative in a really simple space. I have a couple of friends who are really good at that, and that definitely inspires me to look at more simple environments and try and interact with them in creative ways, because that's definitely the beauty of parkour over the last couple of years, is taking something that looks boring or seems to have no opportunity and working with that space in a creative way that is also looks cool and feels rewarding. But yeah, I don't know. I think inspiration comes from a lot of places for me.
You are also a diver.
Yeah, technically I am a diver.
You have been diving.
I have been diving, yes. I do work at Casa Bonita as a diver now, yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty cool place. You should definitely check it out. Take your kids there. It's a great place for kids. It's super fascinating. Even to adults, it's just a bizarre, wonderful place. I wouldn't say that you would necessarily go there for the food, even though it is technically a restaurant. You definitely go there for the entertainment, and the food is kind of just an extra aspect of it. But yeah, there's cliff divers. I'm one of the cliff divers. There's a magic act. There's roaming characters. There's a puppet show. There's contracted artists. So there's like caricature artists. There's other magicians. And I'm probably forgetting a couple things. There's an arcade. There's just a couple weird caves to walk around. It's a very interesting place that is kind of absurd to believe actually exists and somebody actually made.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool. Yeah, being a cliff diver there is very fun. It's the best job I've ever had by far.
Did you have to audition?
I did, yeah. I won't talk about it too much, but yeah, when I got hired, you had to do a short list of dives, which for my parkour self was not too bad. There are some pretty terrible dives as a parkour athlete because I spent 10, almost 11 years training myself to always land on my feet and never, ever, ever your head. But in diving, sometimes you have to go to your head because that's how dives work. The forwards dives aren't bad, but any kind of backwards moving direction towards your head is just, it was awful to work towards as a parkour athlete. But yeah, the list of dives that I had to do in my audition wasn't too bad. And in the 7 to 8 months I've been there, I've definitely started picking up some dives that used to be terrifying and I thought were impossible. But it's very fun, very fun.
How high is the cliff, or are there multiple?
Yeah, there's a couple. There's a 15 and a 16 on the stage, and then on the other side there's a 13 and 14 foot, but they're pretty chill.
That doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad. In the old days, you used to dive from the top, like from the top of the waterfall, and I think that's about 20 feet, which is
I feel like that's
insane.
what I saw when I was 5.
Yeah, that's probably what you saw when you're 5, and that's insane because the pool was smaller and it was more shallow, and it was just insane.
I heard they used to, so this is not
not
a statement on Casa Bonita now, but I heard they used to have to like swim through this little panel into the electrical room.
Correct. They did have that. They still have that there because they use that tunnel, but now it is very much improved, and you swim out through this secret way and climb up through this secret way and come back out, and it's definitely more ideal than the old setup was.
Sounds safe.
Yeah.
That Tarzan and Jane Club did it. Do you remember that?
In elementary school?
Gym class with the ropes.
Oh, man.
You swing from one to the middle one to the third one and back.
Yeah. You're accessing deep core memories that I forgot I had. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Probably, I would say certainly that whatever I grew up doing at a young age was definitely instilled into my mind. So if I had fun swinging on ropes and jumping on whatever kind of mats they had, I'm sure that was imprinted on my youthful mind of, oh, this is really fun. And then kind of just forgot about it until it got reignited by that front flip tutorial video. But yeah, I would say, yeah, probably.
You were the fastest kid in the school?
Yeah.
For how long?
I remember maybe 3rd and 4th grade, and I was in 5th grade, but then that one kid came to school who came from a different school, and he was also really fast, and I was like, oh my god, I'm not going to be the fastest kid anymore. And he was really intimidating, and then the field day came, and I somehow beat him, and it was like the best day of my life. I was like, oh my god, I'm the fastest kid in school. It was so epic for my like 9-year-old brain. But yeah, I started swimming when I was 4, technically. My parents taught me how to swim when I was 4, and then I joined a swim team when I was 6. So I think growing up in the water and definitely growing up swimming absolutely helped with my athleticism growing up.
I've also taken a parkour class.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know this?
I did not know this.
In 2008.
Okay.
Maybe?
That's crazy. That's like when it just started becoming a thing.
My dad.
Wow.
Learned about parkour on YouTube.
Right? That's where it pretty much started, yeah.
He showed me a video.
Oh man, I wish I knew what video that was. That's fascinating.
And he was like, this is gonna be you.
Yeah.
The way a father does to his 8-year-old daughter.
Right.
And he signed me up for this parkour class.
Okay.
And I was not the youngest person there.
Sure.
But the second youngest person, and me and the other guy were like young by a wide margin.
Yeah.
Because I was like 8 and he was like 8.
Yeah.
And these other kids, I was also the only girl. These other boys were all like 13.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Big kids.
Big kids.
Yeah.
And it was not as challenging in this first low-level class as for an 8-year-old as you would maybe imagine.
Okay.
Because I think I had that child strength.
Right.
I wasn't like, I had a lot of control over my body.
Yeah.
So it was pretty easy because I'd also done gymnastics before that.
Oh, okay.
But it was very weird for me, like just as an after school activity.
Yeah.
Just because it was like really awkward.
Yeah.
Because like they weren't gonna talk to me.
Right.
And I had nothing in common with anyone.
Yeah.
But I did like the jumping.
Yeah.
But what's funny about this, how it all connects back, is I ended up my parkour career was short-lived because I think a few months into me taking this class, the gym that I went to, which was also a boxing gym,
okay, sure, yeah,
like moved into Apex and became Apex.
Oh, what? That's insane.
And I remember I was there when it opened.
Okay.
When I was like 9.
So you're at the first Apex gym. That's legendary.
Yeah. So
you were doing parkour before me.
I was.
Like well before me.
And that's also what's funny because I remember in middle school it started to get really popular, not just among not just you, but among other people I knew. Yeah. And it was so interesting because for me, it was like a really niche thing that I got put into when I was a kid. And anytime I tried to explain what it was to someone as a child, they'd be like, "Oh, are you doing gymnastics?
Right.
Like,
right.
What are you doing?"
Yeah, it was definitely a very niche thing back then, for sure.
That's a good segue. 10 years.
Yeah.
Your last big project.
Yep.
You're a video maker.
I am also equally passionate about videography and storytelling through video, yeah.
I thought it was really moving because I followed your parkour account right around when it started. Right. And so I remember following and seeing what you were doing and being impressed by it at the time. Yeah, yeah. I never went back. And so it was really interesting because I'm watching these videos and it's just one flip at a time, you know? Yeah. And I'm wondering if it was as jarring for you or more jarring for you going back and seeing sort of how small the things you were doing then in comparison to now were, or did you know what to expect?
I definitely knew to some extent what to expect because I don't know if everybody does this thing, but at least for me, it's probably at least once a month I'll just get curious and go back through my Instagram and watch old stuff that I used to do just because it's fascinating to me, and also sometimes I get reminded of things that I was doing and I want to do it again, or I'll randomly get inspired by some kind of movement or trick that I was doing way back then. But I definitely had watched very, very old clips a good amount of times before I made that video, but compiling it all for that video and really combing through those years more finely was definitely a far different experience. It was jarring in a way of, first of all, realizing that it's been so long since I was that young and that version of me, because it does simultaneously kind of feel like the stuff that I was watching and saving and archiving for that video that was 9 or 10 years ago kind of does feel like it was more like 2 years ago. And I can kind of remember the feeling of going to the gym or hanging out with the friends that I was hanging out with 8 or 9 years ago like it was just yesterday. And I remember the feelings that I had very clearly and the things that was going on in my life. In terms of parkour and the actual tricks I was doing, it was also a little jarring in a different way. I feel like the only way I can describe it is being a little surprised at how fast I got good at a lot of things. When I went back through my Instagram and YouTube, it seems like I got pretty good at what I was doing faster than I remember. And it's definitely been weird, and it definitely was weird last year when I was making the video, watching myself at 13 or 14 or 15 and even 16, having taught, kind of helped teach children who are 13 or 14 or 15 or 16 at Apex, and realizing that that's how old I was when I was doing the things that I was doing. And it kind of just hits me and made me realize that I was very, very lucky to have been able to do the things that I was doing. And I'm very grateful for the path that I had. I'm very grateful for definitely not getting hurt, but also just being able to do so much of what I did and it actually working out. And my progression happened so fast from when I started and picked up pretty fast, and it was almost exponential for the first 2 years. So it's definitely a little jarring watching myself go from being 14 and learning how to backflip to then being 16 and competing in the biggest competition at the time against one of my idols and like tying him in that competition. It was very surreal watching that unfold in just 2 years. But other than that, it was a pretty clear image of, I knew what story I wanted to tell, and I knew how I wanted to tell it and how I wanted to show it through my progression in the sport and all of that. And actually, originally, when I first started editing the video, it was only going to be 3 minutes long, and it was just going to be the first song that's in the video. And then I got to the end of that song, and I wasn't even done with the first year, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this is probably not going to be a 5-minute video. Like, it was a very quick realization of okay, I might as well just make this everything I want it to be, because this isn't going to be some kind of 10-minute video that's just a quick flash and montage of a bunch of tricks. I might as well use a lot of time to show in pretty good detail what my journey was and what it felt like. But it's kind of crazy that it turned out to be a 45-minute video that was originally just almost a 3-minute video, which is insane. And then I got back to editing, and then that's when I realized it was going to be, instead of this 3-minute quick fun little thing, it was going to be much, much bigger.
You said that in the video, you said some of the clips were lost to time. How did you go about getting the footage together?
Yeah, some clips were genuinely lost to time, and I remember doing some things that I wanted to put in the video that I just couldn't find anywhere. But a lot of what I meant by that was just, I have had like 4 phones since 2014, and the original clips that were on those phones are just very, very long gone. At the time of editing, I only had like 20 clips from 2020 and on, so everything before 2020 was either strictly on YouTube or strictly on Instagram. So I had to download an app that I could save videos on Instagram, and then anything on YouTube I just screen recorded, which is so not ideal, but yeah, a lot of it, I think honestly, I probably spent 4 hours just going through Instagram, saving old clips, and going through YouTube and screen recording old clips. That there's probably a handful of hours spent like just scrolling and finding old clips because I didn't have them.
How much time did you spend editing, like total?
The whole video probably took a little over a month. I would say I didn't necessarily edit every single day for a month, but it was probably at least every other day I would edit a little bit of a certain section of the video for around a month. And also just my very stubborn self was determined to edit the entire thing on my phone, which is just like,
oh my god,
not a good idea to edit something of that length. I discovered this app called Video Leap in 2021, and I made my yearly 2021 video using Video Leap, and I was kind of just like, oh wow, there's a lot more to do now than just cut and zoom and slow down, because that's pretty much all I could do in iMovie. And when I found this app, it was like, it really unleashed a lot of my creativity, and it gave me a lot more to work with. So I edited all of 10 years on Video Leap on my phone. I have my personal phone, and then sometime after 2020, I bought another iPhone strictly for filming, because I figured it would be easier for anybody to just pick up and press record than a camera, even though it's also the same thing. You just hold a camera and press record. Mm-hmm. So I edited the entire thing on my other phone that was strictly just a camera phone. It didn't even have a SIM card. It was just strictly camera roll, and that was the only thing I used. But the way, even though this other phone that I had a terabyte of storage and was strictly just camera roll, nothing else, I had to edit almost every year separately, and then pray to God that when I put all of the years together in the final edit and I tried to download it, that it wouldn't crash. Originally, I think this is probably what took most of the month, was honestly just trial and failure of realizing that my ways of editing weren't going to save on this phone. A lot of the time was spent trying to save. I think I did the first 4 years all together in one video, and there were so many cuts and so many effects that every time I tried to save it, it would get to like 2% and then just crash, and I just couldn't save it. So I had to bite the bullet and re-edit like the second and third years, and I cut the first 2 years, saved it, and then that's pretty much what I did for the entire 10 years. I would do 2 years at a time and then save it, or whatever went with the entirety of the song that I was using. I would edit with just that song, and then I would save it. And then, yeah, that final step of putting all 8 pieces together and really, really, really just hoping that it would save. And luckily it did, but it took a long time. And I think the entire 45-minute edit probably took like, I think I remember putting a movie on and it was still exporting. So it took probably like over an hour and a half just to export the thing, because I also really wanted it in high quality, even though there were screen recorded clips and old clips that were like 480p. I really wanted the whole thing to be 4K 60, so it took like an hour and a half to save 45-minute edit 4K 60 on my phone. And I still have all of the different pieces that I used to edit that video on Video Leap on my phone. And I actually kind of want to do a yearly celebration of 10 years by going back and just showing how stupid it is that I made the whole thing in like 10 different parts on my phone with a whole bunch of really crazy determination and editing.
You talk about Odessa? Is that it? The electronic duo?
Yep.
You mentioned them in your video, and you show footage from different shows. I thought it was really creative that you used that for the thumbnail, because before I watched it, I was like, that's a cool thumbnail. Yeah. And I thought you graphic designed it.
Oh, man, I wish. Yeah.
But then it was from an Odessa show.
Yes.
Do you associate their music with parkour, or were you just shouting them out?
It was definitely both, but a lot of my earlier videos, and I would even say like the concept of wanting to make an edit of me doing parkour comes from listening to their music. And the first ever video I made on my YouTube is called Odessa, and the first real like big project I ever worked on concluded with an Odessa edit of me going to their shows. And then I think there's been a couple more videos where I use clips from their shows just because I love them so much and I'm so infatuated by seeing them live. It just felt like 10 years was the time to really just fully dive into that idea of honoring what has inspired me since day one to make edits, and just saying thank you to them for being such a big part of my inspiration in parkour, but also just life-wise, completely unrelated to parkour. Going to their shows has been such a big part of my life for the past 8 years. So it was definitely both. Did you have, okay, this is definitely completely unrelated, but did you have senior honors thesis in high school?
I didn't take that class.
Okay, yeah, that's a shame. That was the only class I ever liked in all of high school.
People loved that class. It was like sought after.
Yeah.
I was taking like creative writing or something.
That's cool too. That's cool. One of her projects for senior honors thesis was to make a video edit of something, I think just like of your life, and then that's the first big project I ever worked on, and that I did edit on iMovie, and that was even worse to export and figure out. But it was like an 8-minute video just about parkour, and I used a lot of Odessa music, and that is pretty much the start of me wanting to take videography and just making video edits seriously, was that assignment that she gave us. And then after that, it was like, oh, I want to keep doing this. And I definitely think that project was the smaller domino that left, that ended up being 10 years eventually. So you should have taken that class.
Did you take news report?
I did not, but I watched it every morning because we had to. That probably would have changed my outlook on video editing if I had to do news report every week. That probably would have tired me out. Would you say that report led you here to making your website and doing podcasts?
Not really.
Yeah.
I feel like you move the way video game characters move.
Yeah.
Do you relate to that?
Yeah, I definitely, when I'm spending time with people who don't do the thing I do, they definitely liken it to me being a video game character or a movie character or something.
Would you ever use your skills for vigilante justice?
Ooh. I wouldn't be opposed to it. That's something I haven't put too much thought into that, but yes, I probably would, yeah.
I was thinking about how, like, as far as people, who I knew from elementary school, I don't know what a lot of people are doing.
Yeah.
But I do know that, like, as far as, like, people I know from elementary school who are, like, doing the thing that appears to be just right for them, like, you're the top of the list.
Dang.
I'm always like, Jared is doing exactly the thing he was meant to be doing.
Yeah. I would agree. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, that kind of brings all my questions to an end. Do you have any parting words for the listeners of Denver Life This and the supporters of BottleRag.org?
Find what you're passionate about and never stop doing it, and treat it like you're a kid coming across it for the first time until the day you die. And that is one of the many keys to a happy life, I think.
Amen, brother.
Amen, brother.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Cut.
News.